Greetings, I'm Mark, and if you've been following this set of videos, we've created a random music player. We've made it play randomly from a list that was in the default data folder within the sketch. Then we made it so it would only so it would not play the same song twice in a row. And then in the next video, we created the ability to make it randomly play from our list, but only play each song one time and then start all over. Now, in this video, we're going to add some visual effects, let's just say. The first thing I'm going to show you is how we make a progression bar that shows where it's at in the song. And we're going to get started on that right away. The first thing I want to do is right in here, below our integer index, we want to create variables for the length of the progression bar that we're going to create and the height of the progression bar. So the progression bar has two elements to it. One is going to be a background bar that just sits there, and the second element is going to be overlaid that and shows the actual progression. And to do that, we're going to create some variables, a float variable. We're going to call it bar length, and we want one called bar height, bar height. Now down here we want to define that length and height. So bar length, and you can change this to the way you'd like it to be. I found that this worked for me. The bar length, I'm going to make on the x-axis the width, and I'm going to divide that by 1.5 for my results here. So it's going to be more than half the length of our display window. And bar height. And I'm going to make that equal to, let me see, I'm going to divide that by 15. We can play with this if we don't like the results. That's basically how wide this is going to be, or how high our display bar is going to be. We're going to have this length and this height. Okay, now in order to do what we want to do, we want to create another tab right here, and I want to call this tab visuals, in which I'm going to create our function for, we're going to say void, which by now you ought to know that from my videos anyway, that void means we're not going to return a value like we did over here in played. We returned a Boolean value when it was done. Here we're not going to return a value. We're going to call it song bar, B-A-R, and create a function. And that's basically how we create it. Now, first thing we want to do is I'm going to create the color of that bar. And I'm going to again use grayscale, and I'm just going to call it 75. It's not going to be black, but it's going to be definitely in charcoal gray area. And then I want to create an outline to that bar, and I'm going to use the function stroke. to do it. And stroke, I want to use, again, I was explaining that anything using colors is an RGB scale, and each value is default to 0 to 255. All that can be changed. And I'm going to say 255, comma, 0, comma, 0. And what that does is RGB, red is turned up all the way, and the green and blue are turned all the way down. And so what we're going to end up with is the highest level of red that we can create. Now, default, when we create a stroke, it's single pixel. I wanted a little bit more than that. And so to do that, you want to create what they call a stroke weight. And again, I said the default is 1 pixel, but we don't want that. I can say 2, but I don't like to hard code numbers. And so what I would do in this case is a lot of times I experiment, find out what I like best, and then I'll take the number that I end up with and I'll use a calculator. This case is pretty simplistic. I get the width because I want to use my width, and I'm going to divide that by 2. We already know the answer is 400. And so to get 2 in here, I'm going to say width divided by 400. And so after this one, I'm going to try to remember to show you why I do these things, like instead of hard coding them. So let us continue. First thing we want to do is create that back down rectangle using the function rect. Now, function rect takes 4 parameters. The first 2 are where it's located, and the second 2 are the size. And I want it in the center, and so I can do it a couple of different ways. Width divided by 2, comma, HEIGHT divided by 2, comma, and then I'm going to have it, the size is the bar length, LINGTH, and bar, HEIGHT, bar height. But we're going to have an issue here because, like I've said before, the default position, what I want to say, the default position for a rectangle and text and circles and ellipses and a few other things is the upper left corner. We want to base this on the center of this rectangle, and so to do that we need to set something up called rect mode. Use the function rect mode, and we want to say center in capitals. Now the default is corner, also in capitals. So if we want to change it back, which guess what we're going to do. And so what we want to do here is we've created basically our background to our progression bar. Now what we want to do is undo some things. I don't want a stroke, so I'm going to say no stroke in the actual progression that we're going to create. No stroke. That takes away that stroke. Then I want to do is reset the rect mode. I'm going to just kind of copy this and put it right here and paste it. And then I want to say corner, O-R-N, corner. And so it goes back to the default corner. And okay, I want to create the position where the song is at the time. I'm going to need a variable to store that. And we're going to put that over here in the float. I'm going to call it song position, POS. song position. Go back over here. Let me control save this. All right. Now we're going to create our next rectangle, but first we have to store the position in our song POS variable. Now I'm going to use what's called a map function. If you're not familiar with this, I'm going to write it out first and explain how it works. And so song.position, we can just click on this even though it's so teeny tiny. Song.position is a built-in function to Min. It actually looks at where in the song you're at while it's playing, and it's taking that, and we want to for the map function, it needs to know the range that actually song can be. And so what we're going to do here is tell it the range. Well, the range is 0, which the song just started at 0 location, but then it plays what? To the length of the song. And so we need to use the built-in function for minim being length, which isn't the same as our length function for an array. And then what we need to do is map it to something else. And we're going to map this to the size of our progression bar that we already created. And we're going to do that by saying that the song location, as it progresses, it can be at 0, which is where it will start, and then it needs to be bar length. And so it's going to give us a number based on where it is, on what it can possibly be in the song, and it's going to adjust it for these two numbers here from between 0 and bar length, and give us a actual song position that we're going to use. And so we map it, and you'll find that map function is quite useful. I'm not sure how many more times I'm going to use it, but this is the only time I'm going to use it in this video. And so now we're going to create another rectangle, and this is our sound progression rectangle. And as this function is called, song position will update, and our rectangle will grow, will also update. And so we want to put it, again, when using the rect function, there's 4 parameters. The first 2 are location. And so width, and we want to divide it by 2. But then we want to subtract bar length and divide that by 2. And so basically it starts out halfway, and then it sees the a bar length is so long, and it subtracts half of that, and so it puts it back half a bar length behind the center of the screen. And so we're going to set that like that, and we're going to do similar with height, because we've already told height to be in the center, our x-axis. We want the bar to be in the center. But again, we want to subtract where that actually height is. And bar height, now here, you'll have to play with it to experiment so it works best with you. I found out that this worked best for me, was dividing it by 3. And then we want to tell it the actual size, which the actual size on the x-axis is song position. And again, we want to do the height of it, B-A-R-H-G-H-T. Now, if we leave it at that, it will cover our previous bar up here that we set up as it goes. And I kind of want to leave just a little space behind, or else it's kind of useless to have a stroke and a stroke weight and, you know, the little beautification stuff that I did. And so for looks, what I did was multiply this by 0.7. And so it's a little bit smaller. A little bit smaller than the first soundbar that we created, the background soundbar. And in that, let me control save it. It should be good for us. Now, we want to be able to call that up. And how are we going to do that? Well, back down here, I'm going to create another test. We'll test that right here. And, you know, maybe I'll just test that right up here. I want to say if we want to know when to send it over there. Well, it has to go after the song's been started. And so if started, right, we want to if started, and we want to call our function if it's started, which means we've clicked on it, or song is the first time we've clicked on it the very first time to get it going. If started, we want it to call up our function, song bar. And that should be that. Let's save it and test it. Hopefully we don't get any errors. Click on it, and there it is. Is it progressing like it should? I don't see any progression yet. Let me click on it again. No progression. No progression. Oh, I know why. Let's go back over here and take a look. And here is why. Right here, we set our fill to 75. We never changed that for over here. And so what I want to do here is change that. I want to type our fill and I want to make it green. So 0, red down, this is completely 0. Green, we want to turn it up all the way. And blue, we want it turned down all the way. And now we should be able to see our results. Control save, Control R to run, and click it. And there, our soundbar is progressing. And it looks like here and here, it actually looks like there's more of a gap here than here, which means that I could adjust right here this bar height a little bit and to get it more exacting, but it's good enough. Let's click another one. See, there's a very short one in here. Let's see if I can get it come up. There, welcome to the machine. It's very short. As you can hear. I actually, years ago, I took this part of that song, cut this out of it, and used it on my Windows XP machine for when it first started up. You were able to change the startup sound, and that's what I used. So anyway, there you have that. Now, that didn't take very long. Let's quickly get this other one out of the way. What I want to do is I want to create a waveform for it. And how are we going to do that? Fortunately, Minim is very, very robust and has a lot of possibilities. In fact, let me show you real quick here. This is from the Minim website, code.compartmental.net, and you can find, this is basically the instructions with a whole bunch of examples for you, and we're right in the audio player level of it, but there's way more. If you go over to core, oops, no internet connection, sorry, I don't want to go on the internet while I'm doing this, so you don't get to see it. So anyway, you can check out their website and see what you can come up with. But so we're going to use some of that it's sound and analysis type stuff. And so what I want to do is I want to create another function, and I'm going to call it void. I'm going to call it waveform. Waveform. Now, in order to do this, we got to create a for loop. And we're basing the for loop. When a song loads, it creates a buffer. It loads it into a buffer, and we can access that buffer. And so I'm going to say int I equals 0. As long as I is less than sound dot buffersize buffer size, built-in function, as long as it's less than that, -1. I found that when I threw this 1 in, it kind of made it less likely to error out. So -1, as long as I is less than that. Now we're going to increment I and go into our loop. And this is the fun part. Now you can try to change this and use different geometry. We're going to use the line function included in processing. Line. And again, this takes 4 parameters. It's a starting location, ending location. And we're going to say I, which it's getting incrementing through the buffer, I, comma, I need to create a couple of variables at this point in time. I want to create a variable for the height of the wave, how big we want this waveform to be. And so I'm going to go back over here and up to the top here, and I'm going to add to this our float value. I'm going to say wave 1 height, and I'm going to have a second wave, because what I want to do is, in fact, let's just do that. Wave R, oops, R for right, and wave L for left, and the height. Okay. Now what I want to do is, so we put I, that's the x-axis. Now we got to get the y-axis, which is the height. Starts out with wave. Let's do, top one will be the left. Wave height plus song dot. Now we're going to get the amplitude of the left channel just by saying left get I. Before I continue with this, I want to I've declared these, but I actually have not. I haven't defined them. And so what I want to do is define where the size of these, the heights of these bars, which is more or less, it's not like what we created when we created a rectangle and we wanted the height of the rectangle. What this is about is how high within our display window do we want that. Okay, and so I want to say wave left H is equal to HEIGHT height divided by 1.5. Oh, gee whiz. Height divided by 1.5. And let's just copy that. Control copy, control paste, and turn the right value. And I'm going to just throw that in there. So if it was divided by 1, it would be the whole height of the screen, but it's only going to be a portion of that. And so let me control save it. We're going to continue on. Now, when you're using this, I can show you before I actually make this adjustment. So I guess what I'm going to do is not put this in yet, this part of it, but we will have to in order to see our value. Now, our next time, so it goes through this loop, right? And it starts out at I. It's looking at the buffer position in I, and it starts the line there, but then we got to draw the line to the next place. And to do that, we're going to say I again, but we're going to add +1. Oops, +1. And so this is looking at the next buffer size location, and putting it so when it draws the line, it starts on the x-axis at I, and the end of it is at I +1. And so it creates a straight line. And so that then we're going to continue with this wave left H and do the same thing, plus, and we're going to say song dot left dot get, and we want to say we want to get the information at I +1. And again, this is amplitude information. This is not frequency. Minim can do frequency, and you can do some great things between the two. And I advise everyone to experiment whenever you can. Experimenting is a blast. Even if it doesn't turn out good, it's still a blast. Okay, that's our first line. It's giving me an error because I did not enclose parentheses within the line. And so our line, again, takes 4 parameters: a starting location, which is an X and a Y, and an ending location, which is an X and a Y. Now, I'm going to make this easy, and I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it. I'm going to make some changes here. We're going to change this to right wave, and we got to change this one to RIGHT right, and then this one to our right wave, and then again this one to RIGHT. Okay, now how do we make this work? It's complete, almost. How do we make this work? Well, we do the same thing. Let me control save this. Come back over here, down right here where we've loaded the soundbar. We can do the same thing. We will do wave form. Waveform. This should work, but there's going to be an issue. And so we're going to hit play, click on it. It's not working. Oh, jeez. You know what happened, right? It is working, but if you look over here, we never gave it a color. We never gave it anything. And so what we want to do is create a color. Now, when you're using lines, you can only use stroke to create a color. And I'm going to use just white. And so now let's run it. Control save, or Control S to save, Control R to run. Click on it. And as it's playing, let's see, let's click on a song that might be a little bit louder. Yeah, that should be pretty loud, but you can see that there's nothing happening here. You can't really see it, very teeny tiny. So what we need to do is amplify it. And we're going to multiply this, and we can hard code it, but again, I like to not do that. HEIGHT height divided by 12. And we're going to multiply it by that. And I think we're going to do that through all of them. And so I'm going to just take this and copy it. Control C to copy it. Put it here. Control V. And then same with right here. Get this right. Control V and Control V. And as you can see, let me open this up a little bit further. And all this does is amplify that waveform so it's easier to see. Or otherwise you don't get much of anything. We're going to Control S, save. We're going to run it. Click on it. And now you can see huge difference. Huge difference. It's just so enjoyable. Just so enjoyable to see these waveforms dancing around, how they respond. You can see the difference between the right and the left channel. It's so nice. And of course, you can do a lot with these waveforms and your music. Here's another one like Welcome to the Machine. Pretty aggressive. Click again. Whole nother song starts up. Starts up quiet. It starts to really get amplified. And so there you have it. We've added some visual effects to our music. Yeah. I'm gonna post this on GitHub. I'll have a link down below. If you have any questions about any of this, please ask. If you have any suggestions or you just think I'm a nut, you can say that too. I don't care. You wouldn't be the first one. So, yes. Now I'm going to do another one of these. And what case I'm going to do is right in here, instead of hard coding the location of everything, I'm going to create using a class out of processing. And what we're going to do is select a folder where our list will be, so we can select our list, and wherever we select the list, as long as it's within the same folder as the song, it will play all the songs. And so instead of hard coding all this in here, we're going to be able to actually load it and choose where our songs are and what list. So say we don't want to use, maybe you have 10 lists. What we're going to do next is be able to select those lists. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know I do. Anytime I'm playing with sound and visuals, I just love it. It's what I do when I'm not doing this. And if you're really interested, you can check out my website, cosmicgoo.com, and see some of the visuals that I have created for many bands and performers. So thank you again for watching. I hope that you see me again in the next video. And as always, try to be happy and try to be good to one another. Thank you.